What is going on, guys? I am back today to do another album review. I know I call these album reviews. I'm not necessarily like giving these numerical scores. It's more just an excuse for me to recommend music to you guys. And obviously, you know, I do movie reviews, and that's what I work on majority of the time. But it has been fun to do these music recommendations for you all because I think it's fun to be able to give recommendations to artists that I really love and talk a little bit about music that impacts me on a personal level. And today I'm going to be talking about an artist and an album that I think are incredibly underrated, probably one of my favorite singer-songwriters working right now. Her name is Sarah Beth Tomberlin. She goes by Tomberlin for her music, and she just writes some of the most incredible lyrics and creates just really relatable music that impacts me personally. And I'm excited to talk about the correlation between her lyricism and the way that it impacts my life. And I'm very excited to dive into her record, I Don't Know Who Needs to Hear This Today. So Sarah Beth Tomberlin is an indie folk singer-songwriter who I discovered from her first record, At Weddings, that was released in 2018. And I was immediately hooked on her music because I felt like Sarah told these really beautiful personal stories in her lyrics, accompanied by her truly haunting vocals that accompany the music so well. And I remember listening to At Weddings and just reading through the lyrics and just being so impressed at how she's able to paint a picture with words that is so relatable and easy to understand. And I just played that album over and over again. And shortly after that, she released an EP called Projections. And what really impressed me about Projections, it's only a 5-song EP, but I feel like the amount of genres on that record and just how she's able to play with the music and kind of took a lot of risks comparatively to her first record, it was just incredible to see her progression as an artist. But I felt like on that EP as well that the lyricism was just as incredible as the first record, and I really loved the progression onto the EP and thought the lyricism was equally as beautiful, and it really stuck with me. And then in 2022, Sarah released I Don't Know Who Needs to Hear This, which is her most recent release, and I remember hearing the singles for the album and just being super excited to check it out. And I remember the first time that I listened to it from start to finish, just being completely and totally moved by the record. For starters, one of the reasons I love Sarah's music, especially on I Don't Know Who Needs to Hear This, is Sarah is a preacher's kid, and I am also a preacher's kid. And I think being a minister's kid, as much as people can read about it or go online and read about what kids that have been preacher's kids have experienced it, unless you've lived that life, you don't really have any idea what it's like. There's this level set for you that people expect you essentially to be like Jesus. The way congregation members look at you is like you have to live this lifestyle and essentially abandon anything that could be considered secular or anything that could make you look bad. And you really get bogged down by that. And I remember listening to this record for the first time, and there are multiple songs on the album about, you know, struggling with faith and struggling with your upbringing when it comes to faith. There's a track on the record, it's the second track, called Born Again Runner. And there's this whole segment where Sarah writes this experience of sitting in on one of her dad's sermons and being scared about being mentioned in the sermon, and the anxiety and the stress that has about you having zero control over the fact of whether or not your parent is going to bring you into the conversation about faith or point you out in front of this large congregation of people. And I remember the first time I heard the song, I just had to sit for a minute and just kind of like take it in and think about it, because not a lot of people go through that, and I went through it so often. Obviously, I'm the child of a minister. I've talked about this on my channel before. I am probably the furthest person from religion that you could meet anymore. I've completely kind of turned my back on faith, and I don't practice any sort of religion. And I remember when I was growing up, it was me and my 3 siblings, and I'm the oldest of the 4. And what was interesting is I felt like my dad particularly referenced me often in his sermons and was constantly putting me at the forefront. And my other siblings were also mentioned quite frequently, and we would always go in and kind of look at each other and be like, oh boy, who's going to be the one that's talked about this week? And there was this level of anxiety about knowing that you were going to be put out there in front of all of these people that, yes, you go to church every week, but you don't necessarily know them. How are they they going to perceive you? Is it going to be embarrassing? Is it going to be stressful? And there's just this feeling of that it's unlike anything else. It's really hard to describe to people, because on top of those stories, you're also held to this unobtainable standard. And there were so many things about being a minister's kid in my life that are just really hard to discuss. They definitely contribute to issues I have with my mental health and problems that I've had with my mental health. But hearing Sarah talk about it in such an open and vulnerable manner, it was really amazing to hear an artist talk about that in a way that was so relatable. And that song really hit me hard, and I love it a lot. It's a song that I play on repeat quite frequently. Another song on the record I really love is a track called Tap, which is all about internet culture, kind of being sucked into internet culture, and also like a love-hate, mostly hate relationship with the internet culture, and how you constantly have to feel like you're showing every element of yourself online and having to change and shift your personality in order to appeal to this larger idea that people have of you. And it's a really complicated thing, and I can only imagine as an artist too, and an independent artist who has, like Sarah, who has toured with some incredible musicians and has been working with amazing musicians, and herself being an incredible musician, and just trying to put her art into the world, but also having to constantly promote the art that you put out there, and having to present it in a way that you know is going to appeal to people who haven't listened to your music before, and having that relationship with online culture. And I really like the way that she paints that portrait with the lyrics of the song. Sarah also has a really awesome song on this record called Collect Caller that's kind of about her relationship with the music industry, and about people that she's worked with in the music industry, and how toxic the music industry can often be towards independent artists and working with record labels and working with promoters. Sarah has been a really incredible advocate against merch cuts that venues are taking. She's been very outspoken about it, and I think that's something very important to be outspoken about. Artists work really hard to make money on merchandise sales. They make their t-shirts. This is one of Sarah's t-shirts I picked up at her show. It's a photo of Keanu Reeves, which is a reference to one of her songs on the record. But artists work really hard to make merchandise, and it's really disgusting to see how many music venues take advantage of artists and take a large amount of cuts away from them when they're already making money on the sales of alcohol, they're already making money on ticket sales, and to kind of strip those purchases away from artists, especially if artists aren't headliners and they're openers and they're trying to find ways to make money. And so it's interesting in Collect Caller, it's obviously a very isolated and specific incident, but talking about the music industry on a larger scale. But how Sarah is an artist that is constantly openly fighting in the music industry to make musicians be treated the correct way. And I really love that about that track a lot. And like I said, there's a lot of great lyricism on this record, but there's also some really just catchy, awesome tracks, like Happy Accident, which is one of the singles that was released for this album, has such a great guitar riff in it. I love the simplicity of the lyricism in this song, talking about a specific type of a relationship. And I really love Sarah's vocal delivery on this track. It's a really easy one to constantly revisit over and over again, and it's one I find myself playing in my regular rotation nonstop. And I could go through each track on this album and break down every single song and the lyrics on each song, but I think what I've talked about now gives you enough of an idea as to what the content of the record is. And I just think Sarah is one of those artists who is really underappreciated, and not enough people talk about her music, and not enough people support her music. And I think she is so talented and just really releases some incredible music that is relatable to a lot of people, that a lot of people can relate to and take a lot away from. I've had the opportunity to see Sarah live twice now, and both times that I've seen her live, her performances have been absolutely incredible. I highly recommend checking out all of her music. It's really fantastic. And if you get the opportunity to check her out live, if she comes near your area, you definitely should. Not only is she an incredible musician who writes amazing lyrics, she's also a super charming and funny person who puts on a really great live performance. So have you heard Tomberlin's music? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know. I absolutely love Sarah's music. I think she's an amazing musician, and I want more people to check out her stuff. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.